Thank you for joining us here at the museum and inside of the exhibition Light Play itself. Curated by Adize Wilford and with Kamari Jackson, this collection focus draws from works that have been part of Moca's permanent collection for decades and creates new ways to engage with past and recent acquisitions. Together, these works tell a story of how light is used to shape and illuminate hidden ideas and forms. It's not often that we get to actually have these conversations surrounded by the art that inspired it. So this evening feels particularly special and perfect, a perfect setting to consider light in the context of Miami landscapes and through Miami creators. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, members, as well. Before proceeding, Moca acknowledges that we stand on the current and ancestral home of the Seminole and Miccosukee tribe of Indians of Florida. We further acknowledge the Calusa, Jaiga, Miami, and Tequesta peoples, all historic caretakers of this land. We honor and thank them for their past, present, and future stewardship of Southern Florida. I do want to just take a moment to say I am incredibly grateful to our esteemed panel, with whom you'll hear from shortly, for all the care and knowledge that they bring to this conversation. Light, in its myriad forms and application, holds immense potential to shape our experiences, our intimate relationships, creative praxis, or the landscapes of our cities. As we consider this evening the ways light influences our perception and interaction with art, architecture, and urban environments, we explore its pivotal role in defining, and in some cases, redefining Miami. Our panelists bring unique and important perspectives, not only to the practice of harnessing light, but also how this force can redefine space, evoke emotion, connect communities. It's truly an honor to have you all with us. Last part, I promise. Please note that after the conversation, we'll have some time for questions as well. But before we begin, let me introduce our moderator for this conversation on light, creativity, and life in Miami, Tom Wheeler Castillo. Tom Wheeler Castillo lives and works in Miami, Florida. He's interested in landscape, environmentalism, and ecosystems. He works from an interdisciplinary approach, intertwining histories, earth sciences, and anthropology to reflect and respond to living through this anthropomorphic era. I promised I practiced. Since 2021, he's embarked on curatorial missions throughout the Caribbean region, working with curator Rosie Gordon-Wallace and Diaspora Vibe Cultural Arts Incubator International Cultural Exchanges. He is currently an artist-in-residence studio fellowship with DVCAI and a 2023 recipient of its Catalyst Award. He also participated in the 2023 AIM Biennale, a conceptual program promoting outdoor, ephemeral, virtual, and physical art projects by cultural practitioners based and affiliated with the state of Florida. He works with various institutions throughout the region and as an educator, including Perez Art Museum Miami, History Miami, Artist in Residence in the Everglades, the Rubel Museum, and the Miami Design District. With that, I turn it over to you, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Great. First, I want to introduce, I want to thank the museum for this lovely program. Wonderful way to spend a Wednesday evening. In the glow of this fantastic exhibition that we've spent some time with over the last couple of months. But first, let me introduce our guests. Jeffrey Noble is a Miami-based artist born in Melbourne, Florida in 1987. Noble received his BFA from the New World School of the Arts in 2013, and in 2015, he met his future collaborator and partner, Allison Matherly, while both were working at the Institute of Contemporary Art here in Miami. They went on to form the art and design collaborative We Are Nice and Easy, LLC. We Are Nice and Easy focuses on creating immersive mixed media installations, often referencing themes of self-help and interpersonal dependency, utilizing romantic tropes to create a platform for intimate exchange. We Are Nice and Easy maintains a studio in Miami and has exhibited works at Locust Projects, Spinello Projects, Art and Cultural Center of Hollywood, Young at Art Museum, and the Bass Museum. They have completed several public art projects throughout South Florida, commissioned by the Museum of Contemporary Art, North Miami, Miami-Dade Art and Public Places, Miami Beach Art and Public Places, Broward Public Art and Design, Downtown Hollywood Mural Projects, among other private commissions. Their mural, Off the Deep End, won the Miami New Times Best Mural in 2017, and they were winners of a South Florida Cultural Consortium grant in 2018. Awarded a fellowship as artists in residence in the Everglades in 2019, and last year, 2023, received a Miami Individual Artist Grant. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Hey, thank you.
Amanda Sanfilippo was born in Mineola, New York. Holds an MA, a Contemporary Art History at Sotheby's Institute of Art, London, in 2012, and a BA in Art History, University of Vermont, Burlington, Vermont, in 2007. She is a curator and artist manager for Art and Public Places of Miami-Dade County, a nationally renowned public art commissioning program now celebrating 50 years. Art and Public Places is part of the Department of Cultural Affairs in Miami-Dade County, where she is also the director of the South Florida Cultural Consortium. She also maintains a role as the senior advisor of Fringe Projects, Miami, Florida. Amanda I'm sorry, there's a typo here. Has a background. Amanda has a background of curating, commissioning, and recommending acquisitions of contemporary art and effective fundraising and strategic planning for public art and contemporary art, non-for-profit and government organizations, including Projects Miami, Florida, Creative Time, New York, Whitney Museum of American Art in New York, the BCA Center in Burlington, Vermont. Welcome, Amanda. All right. Light as Sublime and the Salacious, the working title for this conversation. We're going to start out with our panelists introducing a little bit about their work. So I'm going to pass this over first to Jeffrey. And then we'll hear from Amanda, and then we'll start our in-depth analysis of the exhibition.
Thank you. Hello? Cool. Thank you everyone for coming. It's an honor to be asked to participate, in this panel, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be able to, hang out with some friends and have a discussion here, and definitely be able to share some of our work with the rest of you. So this work, as y'all heard, I'm part of an artist collaborative. We go by We Are Nice and Easy LLC. So this was a work by We Are Nice and Easy, along with my partner Allison Matherly. It's a series of sculptures we created for the Moca fountain right out front here. This is titled We're All in This Together. From 2021, obviously that period of time where we're kind of fresh out of COVID, and thank you. That's a little bit more comfortable for my neck, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this kind of feels like I'm jumping ahead. I'd actually like to because I have the power.
There you go.
Here.
There you go.
Charge.
I'm going to start with this.
Yeah.
This is titled The Warm Outlook. This is one of our early works we conceived of together. And it was really a very simple idea and a very rudimentary construction. Getting into it, I think at the time that we met and started collaborating, we had both been through major changes in our personal lives, and were interested in, or basically really focusing on our interior life, our emotional maturity and intelligence, and setting aside a lot of old ideas and belief systems. And I think that attunement to our emotional natures really was embodied by light and mood, and dare I say, like a vibe. And I'm gonna try to stop saying
No, it's a vibe.
So this was an early work of Warm Outlook that was just about encapsulating that moment, the time of day, either in the early morning or in the evening, where the light coming through the window, I mean, we call it the golden hour, right? And the shadow, capturing the shadow of, any sort of various foliage or what you find outside, see outside your, and also our landscape, very subtropical landscape motifs that reoccur in our work. So,
Was-
yeah.
Was the purple in the image from a fluorescent bulb, or was it the wall painted purple?
Yeah, so the purple in the image was also from a light.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. Yeah.
yeah. So we did a series of these, and this is a later one where we tried to make the work a little bit more sophisticated. I think this first one, the dimensions were about 32 or so by 16, but the box was actually 12 inches deep, so it protruded a lot from the wall. And that was to create the effect using the light bulbs that we were using at the time, which is very just, off-the-shelf colored light bulbs. The later one is using LED panels, definitely a more sophisticated technology, and they're able to be controlled with a controller to run through various lighting scenes. We could basically program it to be any color. And we had preset scenes that we, made for the work. However, I liked it, but there's something really beautiful about the simplicity of the original work that I'm still attracted to. So this was a project we did for Locust Projects, the project room there in 2017, titled Open Up. We designed and fabricated these benches, and again, at the time, a lot sort of going on in our personal lives, and definitely growing up together at this point, working together, finding new ways of working and collaborating, which was something new for each of us. And we really saw this work as a functional sculpture, a piece of furniture, but also functional sculpture, and something that was like a relationship tool. Anyone could utilize it. We sort of designed it based off of our own experiences, but essentially by sitting in the center portion of the bench facing each other, you're sort of this moment of forced intimacy where you're leaning in towards each other, looking at each other eye to eye, and it was actually a very uncomfortable sensation. I think that is also, you were sitting underneath that warm lighting fixture that we had designed and fabricated that as well, custom for this installation, and you felt the warmth of that light, sort of your body temp, the sensation in your body, I think, was that of like almost heating up as you begin to get a little bit more uncomfortable in that close proximity to the person sitting across from you. And eventually the idea is that you would cycle out to the outside of the bench and be able to lean back, sort of bathed in the cool light, cool off. And we also had video projections on either side of the room that you would be facing that had us, one video was of Allison and one of myself, just a couple different, I think 7 or 8 or so different locations, walking out into a body of water until we were completely submerged and out of view. And this sort of idea of kind of letting go of your tension or the things that you're holding on to, submerging yourself in the ocean. We see the ocean very much as like this, place of origin for us, and sort of like returning to that source and losing yourself, your ego, your identity to that. So cool. All right. This is to enhance your drive. This was a project we did for, I think it was a one-time biennial titled the Commuter Biennial, and it was a really fun, exciting work to make. We were given the opportunity of like, hey, we can do these billboards, and so once we had the we knew we were going to do a billboard. So we were looking around the city at a lot of billboards and what type of billboards are. There was ones of obviously using sex and the body to sell you a product. There was billboards of desperation, a lot of like accident, injury attorneys and stuff like that. And then also we noticed ones that had a sort of a religious or spiritual message behind them. And we kind of like tried to come up with this work that was like amalgamation of all of those and touched on each of them. So we came with the title "To Enhance Your Drive" as the title of the work, and had it on the billboard. And we shot a couple different photos, stage of photos. I think that light plays a factor in this work, and not only is like how it's used to highlight this little interaction between Allison and myself, but also just like kind of like thinking about what it omits and what it leaves up to your imagination, because really it's like I think people's imagination like adds so much more to this work than really what's objectively there in front of you. And we have the phone number, call 833-IMEASY2, and if you called that number, you would be met with a guided meditation on driving that Allison and I wrote and recorded. And we recorded it in a very like hot and heavy voice, but the idea was to alleviate your stress and anger and tension from road rage. And so yeah, I think we were just interested in advertising and the tools of that are used in advertising and some of those tropes. Okay, we're still. So this is I think the most recent work I'm going to be talking about. Another installation. So it's titled "Don't Come," and it was an entire installation based off of sort of a double entendre on the act of coming, and we kind of conceptualized it after we were given, an opportunity to exhibit in a local fair that happens called Fiera Clandestina. Happens during Art Week, and it happens at the Seven Seas Motel off of Biscayne and around 60th Street or so. And we went to go just check out the site, and we were immediately, I think, just we visit a site and draw a lot of inspiration from place. So we had I'm getting lost in the woods here, but the paintings that you see were paintings that we had been acquiring over time, over several years. We would, if we were at a thrift store or a yard sale or something like that, we would always salvage these really they're like beach scene paintings that novice painters would, taking a painting class, would make. And so we had been stockpiling those. We did make alterations to them by adding the text, which again was the double entendres of, one said "glad you came," one said "thank you for coming," another one "come again." And I think just this is really the best one, I think, for this talk. So it bringing together, I guess the title of the talk, right? The sublime and the light is sublime and salacious. I think that, oh, I'm sorry. One other thing. The paintings themselves weren't just the paintings. We also projected videos on them of two figures in the act of making love. It was layered, series of layers of transparent layers, so it kind of obscured the image and wasn't overly explicit, but it served to one, illuminate the painting, and as well as add this motion to it. And so there's a lot of puns and tropes at work there that we could giggle at and thought was a lot of fun. But yeah, I think that's just, there's something there that for me that's where the sublime and the salacious touch. And again, thinking of like the ocean as like our place of origin, as our source, and lovemaking and procreation, and that is a big part of our lives. Having children, and that experience, and so yeah, this was a fun one. The Seven Seas Hotel also, just like seedy roadside motel, and thinking about what draws people to that and what we go there seeking, and then what draws me back to the ocean. What would compel someone to like want to recreate this painting, that they're almost all identical paintings made by different people. And yeah, that sort of like just like primal place of where we all sort of come from. Yeah, there was just connections there that were really interesting to us. So I think, this is okay. So this is a video of like what one of the photographs don't really do it justice, I don't think, like the projection on the painting. So this is just like a little clip of that. I mean, it's nothing too crazy. I was very nervous about producing the work. I was like, this is, I'm very vanilla, good Christian upbringing, and my mom bothered to say this is inappropriate, Jeffrey. Yeah, after I shared the work on Facebook. So, and I'll go back to a little bit about this one, right? We're all in this together. We do a lot of work with, water as a motif, the pool, the swimming pool. I talked a little bit about the ocean here. The swimming pool we utilize a lot. The swimming pool we see more so as as persona, and it's something that's designed. It's chlorinated. It's more like safe feeling, and so we're thinking of that in like the use of like the pool and the pool floats almost as ideas, floating through the head. And I think during COVID, obviously, and since, and there's so many ideas that people are grappling with, and really I think we're all still struggling with getting to what is reality. And so yeah, I think just in the title, "We're all in this together," that was a phrase that a lot of people were saying, and then there was some people pushing back and like, we're not really all in this together. There's, based on your socioeconomic standing, you're doing, you can still travel private jets while the rest of us can't do this. So I think just taking an idea like that, like a simple phrase, and trying to grapple with like, well, what really is the truth, is really what we were most interested in. Also, I think like, the colors of these things, the sort of kitsch, fun connotations of them. I think we take a lot of our reality pretty like lightly. We take it for granted. And I think COVID also just showed people just how fragile those things were. So I'd like to think something maybe like that is in there. But in any case, that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Amanda.
So cool. And it's just been just such a pleasure to look through the images, Jeffrey, because I've gotten to like connect with some of the pieces that you've made and over time, and it's just really beautiful looking back on them and like seeing how it all connects the dots. So thank you. All right.
Am I talking into this thing too much? All right.
This room also has great acoustics.
Yeah.
You can
I feel
kind
like
of
I
hear
could
us.
totally do without the mic. Maybe.
Mm,
No, need the mic. All right.
you need the mic.
All good.
Great.
Amanda, so one way we navigated this conversation was delving into the archive
Yes.
online for art in public places, and so when we get to the more conversational part of the of this program tonight, we'll be going through time. But I wanted also you to reflect on your experience as running this important program here in Miami, and show us some highlights
Sure.
from your perspective.
Well, it helps us to remember also, like you're talking about the archive and reflecting on the history of light-based art, because light-based art is art historical. It comes out of the light and space movement that was born in the 1960s in California. And it's also deeply entrenched in things like op art and minimalism. And, those are important things to remember. Some of the collection highlights from Miami-Dade County's Art and Public Places collection that utilize light that helped to create and strengthen and inform this kind of vernacular, if you will, of this place that we live in. It's interesting also to remember that light is living. Maybe that's another reason why it's so enduring. So it's moving, it's flickering, it's reactive. So this piece that you're seeing here in particular, Ivan Toth-de-Pena, his ARC from 2017, which is located at the Northeast Regional Library, is actually based off of, or the colors of the light, which shift and change, and the frequencies of the light are all based off of NOAA data from when this site was actually demolished to the ground during Hurricane Wilma. So when you drive by this artwork, actually, it's currently under restoration, which is an interesting point. Not necessarily because of the lights, but because we chose, it was installed inside of a retaining pond, and then when there was a subsequent weather event, the water came up. It was a little too tall. But anyway, nonetheless, the lights do reflect this data and the wind patterns and the shifting. And it's also accompanied by a further piece of technology, which is an augmented reality app experience that you can actually see more and experience more of how the data comes to life and the wind currents and the speeds and so forth. So that's another thing. Art that is based in light is also. Oops, sorry, Jeff. I'm like scooting around you. No, you're fine. I think it's the.
Go out.
Oh,
There
here
we
we
go.
go. I think we've got it. Thank you so much. So light is also transformative. This is a really cool piece from the 80s, 1986, Fernando Garcia, important artist from the time and still today. This work is also under restoration. Okay, but it's see, there's a theme coming. But this work is called Making Purple, and it is literally as simple as two bands of neon light, one red and one blue, structured throughout the Okeechobee Metro Rail Station, that blending together make these incredible light effects. And yes, and this
So
piece is
beautiful.
really, really special. Also, on the right-hand side, can you get any more iconic Miami sort of imagery here? We have like the breeze block, but that all builds this vernacular. And look at this, look at the grid, the colors. Light becomes iconic, and it has a way of becoming iconic, particularly for our region. We have for better or for worse, light is actually part of our visual story. It's part of our identity. It has built this visual vernacular in a way that generations later, We Are Nice and Easy, that's an essential part of their vocabulary. So it's pieces like this that kind of form that iconic, if you will, story, visual story. Whoop, going fast. Light is also transformative in a sense that another reason it's so enduring is, it really has the ability to take a space that might be fairly unremarkable, fairly uninteresting, and make it kind of incredible. So this is actually in the lobby of Government Center down the Stephen P. Clark building, which is where Miami-Dade County's government is based. And this is, a fairly drab building, brutalist concrete building, terracotta tiles, and it's kind of like the Port Authority of Miami. It has that vibe, industrial vibe, and then Ivan de Pena, again another work of Ivan's. I'm really happy to have worked with Ivan. Ivan grew up here. He's not based currently, and many of you know Ivan well. But this work is really exciting because it transformed that rather uninteresting lobby space into something that's pretty spectacular and interesting. And it kind of was a way to greet all of the different people that come and traverse in and out of that lobby. There's many different strands and communities, and they're all kind of experiencing that they're having that experience right away. This work also, just interesting fun fact, it tracks you all day long. So it tracks the movements of visitors as they move throughout the space, and then at the end of the day, it plays the whole thing backwards. And it's visible from the exterior of the building. It's actually a completely remarkable piece of technology. It's all bespoke, created by Ivan and his studio, Airboat Studio. So it remembers.
Like, remembers.
Hello.
Raise your hand just a little.
So sorry. Yes.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So light is also, something that can highlight architecture and volumes and space. And so I think we see this in a really kind of simple but magical way. Every time you cross the 395 MacArthur Causeway at night, going back and forth from Miami Beach to the mainland, you're encountering Irwin Reddle's major light-based work of over 650 individual fixtures. They're not just lights hanging from the ceiling, they're in the entire volume of the space, which is interesting. Again, it creates another sort of phenomenological experience of perception moving through space. And it's on a beautiful program, which Irwin has also created. So there's different effects, there's shimmering, there's pulsing, and going back and forth on the causeway at night, I think it really creates this stunning drop-dead moment where you're just like, what in the world, is this spectacular thing? So it kind of has this, this element of spectacle and highlighting these, amazing architectural achievements. Just a look at the work inside. Another way of highlighting architecture, which light can do so easily, seemingly, is to bring it to life in a way. This work is actually by Snarkitecture, Daniel Arsham, and it's visible at the Marlins ballpark, Lone Depot ballpark. It's a fairly straightforward column. If you drove by this, you might not notice it, and in a still image, you really can't tell what's happening. But if you do take a moment to experience this piece, it's actually a very slow pulsing and breathing. And so it's actually almost like a heartbeat that kind of activates and brings the whole building, they call them super columns, to life and activates them, something that otherwise really wouldn't be a character in the landscape or have that kind of experience. And lastly, just to talk a little bit about Dara Friedman's more recent work, Sunday, which is located at the Port of Miami Terminal V Virgin Voyages terminal. This work is kind of incredible because it's displayed through these, as you can see, these monumental triple height LED screens. But the video, which was originally captured by Dara on 35 millimeter film, throughout her course of filming hundreds of sunrises and sunsets at Flamingo, right at the entrance of the Everglades, and capturing these immense sort of spectacular moments on film, and then having that very unique quality of the light translated to a digital medium, so it could be displayed on the LED panels. Many of us are accustomed to seeing LEDs all over the place. They're part of our world now. And when you come to see a work like this, you realize um, how this medium, the LED panel, can actually offer a different kind of experience. The light that we often see, I think, in advertisements, it's so blue, it's so cold, and it's so harsh. But Dara's piece is like you feel like you're being born or something, experiencing
Wow.
this work. The color is so outrageous, the depth of color, and again, that might be because of her really unique process of translating the film. The film's also slowed down, or excuse me, it's sped up, even though it feels very slow when you're watching it. But the sunsets are actually they're going faster. But it's very captivating. But it kind of has this sublime quality
100.
to it, and that's another kind of what's more iconic than the sun. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
So as you can see, light is inspiring in so many different ways. Through it's part of our landscape as Miamians, as Floridians, and I mean our symbol of the state is sublime sun. We forget that because we're not supposed to stare at it, but it is ultimately um, a daily experience of the phenomenal of life. Um,
Mm.
Now back to our exhibition and the glow that we've been sitting under. Initially, when I first started walking the exhibition, when it opened, I went to Marshall McLuhan to read these works, create a binary, just like a binary was given to us for this conversation, the sublime and salacious. And it was a starting point for me, so I don't want to get too stuck on binaries, but it certainly helped me navigate and understand these works. Some of these artists I knew, and some of them are completely new to me. So that's how I approached it. Just a refresher. Framing from Marshall McLuhan's classifications of mediums, cool media versus hot media. To understand the media's technology and its temperature, and how this conveys information that shapes our perceptions of reality. McLuhan is providing a way to understand media as an extension of people, ourselves, and others, and how the stimulus relates to involvement, or ultimately how we are interacting with it. Hot media provides lots of stimulus, requires little involvement, while cold media, a little stimulus and requires a lot of involvement. The hot form excludes, the cold one includes. Cool light illuminates ideas, coolness, and rationality as implicit in artificial light versus fire is the igniting power and the light source for the chandelier, which I was specifically thinking about. Petak Coin's Untitled 757, which is made of wax. It's this beautiful sculpture, but to actually activate it would to destroy it simultaneously, because fire is is meant to ignite the chandelier.
Mm.
So I compared Seeger with Coin. This is Sarah Seeger's song 4. It's a open parentheses for a cool light that invites us to think of what this composition could mean, this open, cool, conceptual space of possibility versus, again, fire. And of course, we all know what fire does, right? I mean, people who camp understand the power of a fire. But again, this is not about being fixed or rigid. Sublime and versus the salacious, the spiritual and ethereal versus the sensual and the provocative. Let's see. The next slide.
Mhm.
Nancy Haynes' argument from 1992. It's a work that's possesses you. It's made with ink that's reacting to the UV, but it's lit. It's ignited. It glows. It just sort of has a supernatural feeling for me. So poetic, especially thinking about the legacy of Haynes as a painter. versus Dennis Oppenheim, the work that we're sitting under, Gut Birthdays, which is a work that's ultimately he's reflecting on his life, midlife. The light, the birthday candles are positioned in the guts. The word gut birthdays is illuminated by light, a reminder of the glow and hum of life. So this is me walking through and then meeting with Jeffrey and Amanda and structuring this conversation. We started out talking about history of light as a medium in the city, and this is, for me, the first work from Art in Public Places that came to mind was the Miami line from 1984 by Rockne Krebs. Light in Miami's landscape. It's our quality of light, sublimely bright, polarized lenses, reflection, refraction, shadow. And then at night, I mean, the majority of these images that we've been looking at are taken at night. So it's about illumination, glow, the UV spectrum, and the phosphorescence. Jeffrey, first question. Defining Nice and Easy's work with regards to light. Reflect on why, delve into this personal history that we were talking about, from the subtropical vernacular that includes colors and materials that reflect light, to the Moca fountain, using the reflection within the water. I'll let you reflect on that.
I mean, I touched on that a little bit in the presentation of the works, and that I think light is just a very emotive medium. You know, the way a room is lit can completely change the vibe or the feeling of the room. You talked about how blue LED lighting is generally in advertising and signs, and the difference that a warmly lit room can make. We're very choosy about what restaurants we dine in at, based more so off the lighting than anything else. We just absolutely cannot stand like the funky blue
Creates such an
fluorescence.
atmosphere.
Yeah. So yeah, atmosphere, right? That's like what we're talking about, and also so specific to South Florida is the quality of light that we have here. I remember being really young, and my sister was signed to a modeling agency here in Miami, and I would hear them be having conversations just about, you know, you have to do the photo shoots in Miami because, you know, the light here is just perfect. You know, it's like the best place for, you know, to shoot outdoors, whatever. And then, you know, later on here, moving down here to attend college, and you know, at that point in my life as well, I was just transfixed by, you know, the city lights. I mean, I remember driving 95 South and driving through downtown and Brickell and seeing that and just being like, oh yeah, like I'm here, like I'm out of Melbourne, and thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, all that factors into still like how we with some of the influence that we have how we work with light, and then but then especially I think going back to like our emotional reaction to it, I think is the most fundamental part of it, and
Amanda, knowing Art in Public Places archive and working with contemporary artists, why do you think light as a medium is so enduring, especially when reflecting on the iconic Miami line?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Tom. And you know, it's fascinating because this work in particular might be responsible for so much of the sort of myth making around Miami, or visual culture, or visual identity, and kind of as I prefaced in the works earlier, of all the different ways that light feeds into art making and the world we live in. This one in particular has been the subject of countless photos, TV shows, iconic sort of moments for people living in the city. It was made popular and famous by Miami Vice. It actually was. So it's rooted in that history. And, you know, this work grew and shrank with the city. also. So it was actually originally commissioned in 1984 at 600 feet, 300 feet on either side of the Metro Rail bridge, and then grew due to wild popularity over the next 8 years or so. In '88, it was expanded to over 1,500 feet, and today it's back to its original size. And that's largely because of the major restorations and issues with the work that have occurred since the very moment it was installed, and also because the city grew up around it. So much of the expanse that you see on either side of the banks of the river, you cannot see that any longer. So they're hemmed in completely by buildings on either side. So really what you can only see is the span over the river. And this is also like a really great opportunity to just begin the conversation about restorations, unless you want to hold that,
where I was
because
going.
it's kind of a flow, because I mentioned a few of these works are under restoration. What's really important about public art programs, and Miami-Dade counties has this, is that there's a restoration and repair program that actually sets aside a percentage of dollars from the commission to restore work, and it replenishes with each commission. So by the time 2016 rolled around, the original neon work, even in its condensed state, was really in disrepair. The major reason is because whoever originally commissioned this, some of the amazing curators who founded the program and were part of it in its early days, truly visionaries, never really thought about the fact that when the Metro Rail would go over the bridge, that it would shake the bridge and all the connections would come loose. So that is an ongoing issue, especially with neon. Rockne Krebs, fascinating. There's a lot of pioneering moments here. Rockne Krebs he's passed away, but was one of the very first artists in the 1960s to start working with lasers. And is really known and heralded for working with laser sculpture, really incredible, groundbreaking work. And so for him to, bring this work out for us, and this was pretty much at the height of his career, it's his signature work, was an incredible thing. And so in 16, really evaluating the situation, Art in Public Places was able to use that restoration fund and completely convert the neon to LED. So what you have is a much more stable form. We did this, of course, in consultation with the artist's estate to make sure the colors were correct, to make sure it was all, having in the spirit and energy of the original work. And then, as Art in Public Places usually does, working with an artist that works in light to consult through the whole process, especially if the primary artist had passed away. So in this case, working both with the estate and then, of course, the artist that we worked with was Ivan DePena. So Ivan was able to kind of connect with his own practice and bring this forward as well, which kind of connects the dots through generations of artists working in the medium, which is really exciting. It is a fairly nerdy thing to share, but there is something called the National Association of Counties, and they offer awards for really groundbreaking and excellent work. And in 2016-17, the program won this award, and they call it NACO Awards for this because of just the extremely careful handling. Much credit I have to go and share with goes to the program chief, Patricia Romeo, of Art in Public Places, who's still in operation today, and Michael Spring, the former director of the Department of Cultural Affairs. They just really made this happen. So, that comes back to just the fact that these light-based artworks, they do need care, they need restoration funds in the public realm especially, and that careful stewardship to keep them growing and evolving over time when a technology becomes obsolete or is no longer the ideal form, to be able to retrofit.
Perfect segue to the next part of the conversation. 8 out of the 10 works were created in the 90s. A lot of these works that we're looking at are from the 80s and 90s as well. I can't help but pick up on, as an artist and historian who's reflecting back on And then also thinking about these questions of preservation, technology becoming obsolete.
Right.
You know, there's something there. And this reminds me of another work that I wanted to highlight.
Oh yeah.
I think this, well, that's another
Oh,
view.
And just to say, Tom,
Sorry.
just to one comment, the
please.
work is not only about the Miami line right on the Metro Rail bridge itself, but look at the water.
Yeah.
Isn't
Right.
that incredible? And that's actually from a boat, which is for me the very best way to experience the Miami line on the river. So I highly recommend trying to get that experience under your belt, because not only do you approach it, you go under it, you leave it, and you see amazing, unique views from all. That's actually my photo on the left.
Amazing.
Yes, and then on the right-hand side, we've been able to integrate the Miami line into other places as the city grows again. So this is the underline where it begins. It's a initiation point on the Miami River, and it's just a wonderful and happy coincidence that it happens to be right alongside the particular stretch. So we're able to, through the activation of the underline, which is, of course, the activation of the land underneath the Metro Rail. The underline is a private organization that's working hand in hand with the Miami-Dade County Department of Transportation and Public Works to, really activate a linear pathway full of art and amazing amenities, and many of you know of it today, and it's really, they're really doing incredible work. Just two different vantage points with which you can experience this, not only from 95, which is a great way to see it, or other points in downtown, but from the water and from the underline as well are now new vantage points to consider. Yeah, that's it. On one side, and then of course it's on the other side as well. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry for. Thank you for allowing me that segue there. That's also my photo on the right. Ha! And I guess the buildings aren't quite all the way there, but they're pretty tight.
So I was reflecting on time, and as well as the era that all these works were made in. There was something about technology, like artists using light and glass, which are, they're of modernity, and then fixtures becoming obsolete, analog versus digital, and reflecting on it from this vantage point. So I was looking at this work by Julien Laverdiere, The Terminal Tunnel, from 1998, and it kind of has an optimistic feel that so much of the 90s had, at least reflecting on that time. The economy was great in the 90s. There's so much luminosity and fashion and in decor. So I was just sort of like reflecting on that time, and does it coincide, or does it also reflect my memories of Miami as a kid, on the Metro Rail? And I wanted to sort of check in on if I was making sense with that analysis. Especially, you have to deal with the plugs. You have to deal with, or from your point of view, Amanda, how our artists are thinking about these things. Some did, and some didn't, right?
When they're thinking about like
Restoring.
Yeah.
What's the work past the life?
You would like to think that we all thought about it more, but and I think there's just what can you say? The joy of pushing a medium, and the excitement and the thrill of it is always going to be there, and there will always be the cost of maintenance and technology moving on, and it seems to be something that a gamble that people are willing to take. Some mediums that compelling. Keith Saunier's work again, another one at the Miami International Airport, also under restoration currently. It's true. I mean, this is the truth of them, and so there's the facts, but there's also how much pleasure and excitement these works bring us. And I also want to note that this work, you can't see it, but it's in between the two light-based work, is Christopher Janney's other iconic work from MIA, which many of you have seen if you've come through the Intermodal Center. And that's just a treatment on the glass blocks, and the light comes through and shines through the glass. And it's another way of capturing light. That one requires far less maintenance, but nonetheless, you know, Keith Saunier, again, kind of a pioneer from the 1960s, really important light-based artist who was able to create this iconic work here. And I actually would love to read just one quote about him, which he wrote about the work. So he says, this work is from 1996. He says, heliotrope is an arrangement of mirrors for reflecting sunlight found from a distant point onto an observation station. The play of light, color, light, and reflection on this artwork on the metallic ceiling surrounding the structure create a vital, impressive atmosphere, which evokes the spirit of Miami, the city of sun. So, you know, and again, like thinking through the fact that the space, the placement, the reflection on the top, those are all deliberate parts of the work. And in that way, you know, the work kind of jumps off, you know, it goes further than just the materiality. It becomes part of the environment, and it becomes something that is, you know, part of the infrastructure of place. So those are some interesting things about it. And I just love how he said that evokes the spirit of Miami, the city of sun.
Going back to the sublime.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to open it up to some questions. If anybody is interested in expanding on some of these ideas or have... We have a mic right there, right behind you. Grab. Thank you.
Where I have a view of the Hard Rock Cafe guitar building
Oh, yeah.
with light, and now I'm going to take
Iconic.
a little better appreciation
Oh, good.
of it.
Yeah, I don't live as close, but I can see purple light in the sky all the time.
I've hated it for a long time, but now I'm going to take another look.
Excellent.
Anybody else?
I'm going to make my way around, and I'll start with this gentleman.
Yes, I have a question about the public art
Sure.
bridge. You say that it was 1980.
84 was the
84.
original.
What was the budget for that back then?
Do you know
and what
what?
is the budget for restoration today?
To tell you the truth, I could certainly find the original budget. I just don't happen to know it offhand. I have no issues telling you the maintenance budget where we restored it in 2016. It was approaching $950,000. The restoration. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. No, it's so powerful, and it's so pervasive, and it became a language, a visual language. And you're so lucky you got to live through all of it here. Live through it. Yes, yeah.
And now light is a marker of a specific moment in time. We are reliving it, but also reflecting on it.
And building off of it again, like your practice, you know.
Well, and there was one interesting comment that came out of our conversations when we were preparing for this was Jeffrey and this idea that neon, you see it as a kitsch, as I just wanted you to expand on that a little bit, just because I think it's vital if we're thinking about time, if we're thinking about how to talk about these mediums, and I thought it was a great
kitsch.
comment.
Yeah, neon is kitsch. Neon as the light. As kitsch. Let's see.
Or not.
Well, because like thinking about Ocean Drive
Yeah.
and the
Well-
postcard and how that becomes this.
It's reproduced, and it's something that gets it. How would I put it?
Well,
Just say
it's
it.
almost like it's this it's a code almost, or like I keep saying language, but it becomes something that means something. It carries
Yeah.
meaning.
Yeah.
Whether that be you're using it ironically or to you're kind of using the layering.
You don't think it becomes a little bit too cliche?
It sure does.
I think I like the,
But
but I
it's
like
also
that.
great. We
I'm
also love it.
very into taking where
Yeah.
it's something not me, but let's say Nice and Easy
Yeah.
is like taking cliches
Mm.
and as something like that,
Mhm.
Miami Vice light and this idea of the neon on Ocean Drive becomes so kitsch and cliche that then no one wants to touch it, and it becomes like a taboo amongst those in the know. And that's something that for us seems really salacious, that like, oh, we want actually to now play with this because it's something that we're not supposed to do.
Sure.
I think that's why we're attracted to kitsch things in a general way, is like we learn about them in school, or they would grow up around certain objects that are like, oh, that is so passe. But there's something draws you back to it. There's like some deeper archetypal thing there that I'm like, nah, I think there's more still to uncover, despite it already being so prevalent and overused. Is that maybe a
Yeah.
fairly decent answer?
And we're all it's kitsch until it isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think about Glenn Lagon's use of neon, and it's not
Yeah.
kitsch.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah.
Or Tracy Emin's
Yeah.
poetry.
Yeah.
So
Tracy's so beautiful.
it
I'm thinking of like the very Miami,
sure.
Signage, neon, but obviously in art, I think it's. I'm just getting a little spun out right now.
Didn't mean
There's
to
so
put you
many
on the
avenues
spot.
to sort of go down.
Well,
so.
there's using the kitsch, like in
Yeah.
a way, there was Dan Flavin, and then you
Yeah.
have like people, then you have Mary Weatherford, and you have like different ways that people are knowingly using the language to say something with it, and that's just like a fascinating, tool in the toolkit.
Yeah, which I think goes back to McLuhan. It's how we read how the artist uses the light. Any
Yeah.
final questions?
We had one other question.
Hey, George.
Well, could you speak a little, Amanda, about how Ivan worked with the estate of Rockne Krebs in order to help make the translation
Sure.
from neon to LED true to the
True.
spirit?
Well, sometimes when you have a really major restoration like the Miami line, you want to make sure the program has had a history of not only making sure the artist or the artist's estate is on board, but the actual, if you will, mechanism that's going to do the work. Who's going to procure the light bulbs? What kind of light bulbs are they? How are you going to configure them correctly? Like, you need to have a really high level of expertise, and also an artistic sensibility, and someone that isn't just a manufacturer of lights or on an industrial scale, but someone who uses light as a medium. So in this case, reaching out to Ivan became like a filter by which all of these decisions were made. Of course, with the estate, it was, what's the color palette? What's the spirit of the work? Let's talk about scale, like all those technical things, and making sure that those are accurate and true, that those technical aspects were correct, but then kind of translating it through Ivan's, sensibility in a way. Because I will also say about that work, the work demanded from the program and from everyone who worked on it a lot of coordination. You can only access the Metro Rail lines and in the middle of the night. and you can only access them for a few hours a night. So in order to do the work, a tremendous amount of coordination happened, and of course all the technicalities of procurement and storage and assembly and all that. So, making sure that you have an artist's eye and a touch on all that is essential to making sure the work speaks, correctly. I hope that answered the question. You're welcome to come to the archives and research anytime. It's all there for you.
It's less of a question and more of a comment on your favorite moment of light. I know for us, since we're in North Miami, we had the incredible opportunity, thanks to the Knight Foundation, to restore The Electric Tree by Mark Hanforth. And I don't know if any of you have experienced that in Griffin Park.
Mark
It is
Hanforth.
such a moment, and it creates space.
Yes.
So I would really be interested in your favorite light moment here in Miami.
Boy, you go first, Jeffrey. And then you, and then I'll go last. And kudos to you guys for restoring The Electric Tree by Mark Hanforth, because that work was restored fully a few years ago by Moca.
Jeffrey?
Favorite light moment? I've answered this question like a dozen times leading up to tonight. I don't even know. Of course, I'm like, I know that question's going to get asked. So, and now I'm like totally drawing blanks. Favorite light moment, first one. The dancer on the Intercontinental.
Oh, don't forget it.
I'll circle back with my real answer.
Fair
but for now,
enough.
that's the only thing that comes to mind.
Fair enough. No, we're obsessed with it here, aren't we? It's a total obsession. Oh, there you go.
We had a little bit more of a program to talk about, but this is, if I'm thinking about light, and I think about works that, it's not an iconic moment. I showed you some of my favorite iconic moments, but as an artist who's thinking about light, I can't help but think about Christina Ley Rodriguez's process and in the creation of this mosaic, which is an artist who's wrestling with tools, with this medium, and something beautiful over time, because this comes from a scanning process. A scan does not happen in a 0.0 second that a photograph happens.
Yeah.
It takes minutes sometimes.
Yeah.
And her work captures that atmosphere and that space, the studio and the natural environment, and then to translate that into a mosaic, which also these colors, paint and tiles also reflect light.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So to capture that, and that I think is one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, this work was a joy, and like you said, Tom, Christina, amongst her different practices, she's known for getting a flatbed scanner, just like, you take the objects, you put them on the scanner, and close it up, or some, let
leaves
it
it
scan.
open.
Sometimes leave it open, and what happens is you get refraction, you get distortion, you get all kinds of
Saturation.
crazy saturations where the scanner, the medium of the scanner reacts to. By the way, these are all real flowers, all real flora, all real materials. Sometimes some iridescent plastic and other crazy things she sources and finds. So these are all real objects and elements. And of course, getting that distortion, and you can see kind of like in the red flower, the streaking and the coloration that's happening there. That's actually, and what's really cool about this, and we had so much fun making it with her, because this is a glass mosaic tile mural, if you will, and it's vitreous glass, which means that they're actually tiny pieces of colored glass. So they're not like painted tile. They're actual glass itself, which, as you mentioned, glass is taking in light, storing light. There's iridescent diachroic glass as well, which further bends light. So what you have is this crazy thing that's using an ancient technology to translate, a really contemporary, methodology of something that, imagine hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, would have been incomprehensible to imagine. But bringing it all together.
All right, what's your favorite moment of
Oh, boy.
light? Just that we haven't shared
I'll
tonight.
take the opportunity to plug Fringe Projects and say on the Intercontinental Hotel, if you look into the archives of Fringe Projects, Sybren Versteeg, who is a really talented artist working in technology and light, basically used the canvas of the Intercontinental to broadcast the entire reading of a book, line by line. The book, oh my God, what was it called? You'll have to go
I
online and tell
remember.
me. It's about the economics of a village. Small is beautiful. The piece is called Small is Beautiful. So over the course of a week, all the text from that book was displayed on the facade of the Intercontinental. It was completely insane.
I don't have a singular public work, but there's three things that come to mind that were just moments, like experiences.
Oh.
One of them was here, the Tracy Emin exhibition.
Oh, yeah.
I was working here as an art handler at the time. So I got to install that show and hang out with Tracy a
Yes.
little bit. It was really cool. I mean, totally, immersed. It was like walking through Tracy's head with like her musings, like,
And her heart.
on the wall. Some other, I think, like some of my peers' work that I really admire, that I think have done some really great work with light, is Alan.
Alan Gutierrez.
Alan Gutierrez
Yes.
has crafted some really incredible works with light.
Yep.
There's some illusions. A number of his installations I was always really blown away by.
Absolutely.
And then also Cara Despain's work, the exhibition she did at Bass. I was more so thinking about it in relation to your talking about the 20th century and developments of lighting and the influence of electricity and technology and everything. But that's just the radioactive glass, that exhibition that she did at Bass, and how that glows and emits light. I thought that was just such an interesting topic to jump into.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Oh, that's great. Alan had a cool fringe piece too that dealt with light.
So, one last thing we'd like to, I want you to plug.
Oh,
Your
sure.
research opportunities for art in public places. We were talking.
Yes, so thank you so much. In conjunction with the 50-year anniversary of the program, Art in Public Places has made accessible a research library and also research files of primary documents from the artist catalog that are available for scholarship, and they're incredible things that are located in the library and in the archives. So not only that, but of course the new website is miami-dadepublicart.org. Where most of the collection is available, searchable through various filters that help you really delve down into the collection and learn about it. And those are just some great tools. And
Navigated our conversation tonight.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for your attention and your questions.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you all for